Come sew with me the Burda Easy 9772 Bibs pattern. This is a vintage pattern that I picked up from a local thrift store, and it's never been sewn from, so all of the pieces are still intact. Here I'm opening up the pattern instructions, getting those laid out, and then I will be cutting out the pattern pieces. I chose to do pattern option B, so it's the little bibs without the knee pads, and I kind of regret that because they're super cute, but I can always add those later. So here I lay out the pattern pieces and start cutting everything that says B. So you can see here it says A, B, and C. These are the straps, and you will be cutting out 2 of those. Now I'm going to lay out my fabric. This is also thrifted fabric. I'm not sure what it was used before. There's a seam down the middle that I kind of used to my advantage, and I got this fabric from my great aunt. She does a lot of antiquing, and she bought a big load of fabric that she graciously gifted to me since she isn't doing as much sewing as she used to anymore. So now I am laying out the pattern pieces and making sure they line up with the grain of the fabric, and if there's anything that needs to be cut on a fold, I'm lining it up with the fold. I used some coasters to hold down my pattern pieces, and now I'm cutting them out. Now let's give some appreciation for those crunchy scissor sounds. I know that you really should, if you're going to sew the right way, you should be ironing your fabric before you cut all of your pieces, but I can't be bothered to do that, and neither can Rachel Maxey, so shout out to her. So instead, I iron my pieces right before I sew. I line them back up with the pattern piece and recut them. This is also when I will mark any pattern markings that they have for notches or buttonholes. Now we finally get to the fun part, sewing all of the pieces together. First, I'm threading my Treadle sewing machine. This is a 1930s Singer 66 model. This also belonged to my great aunt and to her mother before that. She bought this during the Great Depression and started sewing everybody's clothing for the family. It sat in her basement, my great aunt's basement, for quite a few years until I mentioned my interest in a treadle machine after watching Bernadette Banner and way too many Bernadette Banner videos during 2020, and she sparked my interest in a treadle machine. So my great aunt dug hers out of the basement and gifted it to me, and now it's sewing clothes for my little kiddo. So we first wind the bobbin thread and then we thread the machine itself. And if we want a more in-depth video, just drop that in the comments below and I can show you guys how I thread a Singer 66 treadle machine. First, we're sewing the legs together. So this will be the inseam, the seam that runs along the inside of the pant leg. After sewing the inseam together and then the outer seam together, then I will press those seams open so that they lie flat and they don't create a bulky appearance when the bibs are worn. So after pressing those seams open, I'm going to flip one of the legs right side out and then tuck it inside the second pant leg so that they are right sides together, and then I will sew the crotch. Once the legs are put together, then we're going to move on to the straps. These straps are going to be sewn inside out first into kind of a tube shape, and then they'll be flipped inside out, and then I will press that. Once I have the straps pressed nice and flat, then I'll come back and sew along the top of the straps twice. This adds a bit of structural integrity to the straps so they don't bunch up or stretch out while they're being worn. Then the straps get sewn to the body of the bibs. After all of the pieces are put together, the straps are on, and the legs are sewn together, then I'm going to add a bit of a lining to the front and the back of the bibs. This round piece is the front panel of the bibs. This is where the buttons will attach at the top, and this is also a good place where you could add a little bit of embroidery or maybe a tiny little pocket. Next, I'm adding a cuff to each of the pant legs. Now that all of the major sewing is done, I'm going through and trimming up all the little threads that I've left behind. Now I get to break out a fun little gadget. This is a Singer buttonholer. It was made to attach to Singer Treadle machines. This made making buttonholes so much easier instead of hand stitching them. My husband found this at an antique store, and it looks like it has all of the pieces. It has the different template sizes, so you can make different sized buttonholes. It has the plate that attaches to the Singer Treadle machine, and it also has the instruction manual. So to use this fun little gadget, you first need to pick the template that matches your button. So you want the buttonhole to be slightly smaller than the button itself so that the button doesn't slip out while you're wearing the garment. So you insert the template down below the buttonholer. Then you lift up that little arm, and that's going to attach to the screw that holds your needle onto your machine. So when the needle goes up and down, it's going to kind of pump that arm and run the machine. If you guys want a more detailed video specifically on the Singer buttonholer, drop that in the comments too, and I can make that video for you guys. It's always a good idea to test out your buttonholer on a scrap piece of fabric first. So that's what I did here, and it's a good thing I did because I discovered I needed a slightly larger buttonhole. so I went with the next size up when making the actual buttonholes. I'm going to make 3 buttonholes on each strap so that these bibs can grow with my kiddo. Finally, I'm going to hand sew the buttons onto the bibs. Now the bibs are nearly done. It was so much fun making this with you guys. Thank you for following along. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I will see you in the next video.